in this video I'll be breaking down the 3 exact things that you need in order to hit 10K a month with your SMA, right? If you need help implementing these systems and reaching that goal faster, just drop me a DM on Instagram. I'm more than happy to help out. Anyways guys, stay tuned and watch the video. Let's get straight into it, ladies and gentlemen, and not waste any time here. In this video I'll be showing you guys exactly 3 things that you need in order to hit 10K a month with your agency, right? So first things first, let's get straight into it, right? The first thing that you need to do, right, is obviously pick a niche, right? And everyone says this is something that you know, but I'll always repeat it just for the sake of the video, right? We need to know what niche to select, right? Because if you don't have a niche, if you don't have a target audience, right, how could you actually provide value to someone, right? You need to know the target audience, what is the gap in the market, and how you can solve that issue, right? So I have these 3 pillars down here, and these 3 pillars are what I use in order to pick a niche. One thing that we want to know first is the total addressable market, right? Thing is, right, there's no point going to a market where there's only like 100 people that you can potentially serve, right? It's not enough customers there, right? You want to go in a market where there's at least 50,000 businesses, right? That being, if you only have a small percentage of that, 50,000, you're making a lot of money, right? Next thing is obviously the ticket size. You don't want to go something in low ticket, right? Let's say restaurants, right? And you can't charge a person 1K a month for a service, for a restaurant business, because they'll not profit off that. So like it's too low ticket, right? You want to focus on medium to high ticket businesses. Therefore, paying you $1,000 plus like ad spend is justified for them, right? So this is the type of thing that you want to do, is focus on the ticket size as well. Plus saturation, right? You want to actually go into markets that are, it depends. Saturated markets, people say, oh, it's saturated, I don't want to be here. But if it's saturated, that means it works, right? But as well as that, you want to go somewhere where it's medium, like saturation, in my opinion. That way, like, there are a couple agencies out there, meaning that it does work, right? But at the same time, you're not competing against the whole world, right? And so if you use these 3 pillars, right, you can find the right niche very fast, right? And what I suggest you guys do, like for each of these pillars, right, go on ChatGPT and search for that niche. Okay, ChatGPT, what's the total addressable market? What is the average ticket size? What is what is the market saturation? Based on these 3 things, do you think this is a good niche, right? And based on that, it will tell you. Or you can input these three pillars, right, into ChatGPT, and they'll give you a niche list for the service that you're trying to provide. Next thing, obviously, you need to reach out to customers. You need leads, right? You need to have potential clients that you're trying to hire, right? And how are you gonna do that? Obviously, is you need acquisition channels. You need to actually scale an acquisition channel. You need to pick a model where you can start acquiring clients, right? And there's 2 strategies behind that. There's inbound, where it's like ads, whether it's Google, Facebook, whatever it is. This is like, let's say when you actually have some money, like at least $1,000 saved up, like if you dump that shit into ads, right, you'll definitely start getting clients fast. However, there's also outbound, like IGDMs, SMS blast, cold calling, right? Whatever the method is, right, you want to make sure to actually stick to it and start scaling it, and obviously track all the metrics, right? Without tracking any metrics, you'll never know what is going wrong in your business, right? So I highly suggest whatever channel you're using, make sure to pick the right acquisition channel. Make sure to actually track the data, right? And in my opinion, if you have some money, go for Facebook ads. If you have a little bit of money, like a couple $100 saved up, SMS blast, that'll get you mass outreach very fast. And I have another video on that, explain how to do it. Then there's also IGDMs and cold calling. Cold calling is the best way to actually start learning sales and actually learning how to actually try to sell people, right, to book a meeting, and then therefore then it will transverse into your sales calls, right? So yeah, pick an acquisition channel and scale it, and obviously track the metrics. The next thing that you want to know is obviously sales, like how to sell to people, right? Because if you're hopping on meetings and once you start booking appointments, right, if you cannot close them, then like it's going to be difficult for you to sign any client, right? So what I suggest you guys do is always follow the 1 call close approach. And if you go on YouTube and search Cole Gordon's sales script, right, there's a lot of resources on here, all for free, explaining how to do a 1 call close strategy with objectionless calls, right? As well as that, he has a whole framework behind objection handling. This video is exactly what I use to help me start closing SMMA clients, right? So I highly suggest you just do that, right? You don't need to hire a mentor. You don't need to hire any of this shit. You just need, the right resources. Next thing is obviously you need a service, and you need to learn how to actually fulfill your client, right? For example, if you're doing Facebook ads, you want to have these 3 tools. ChatGPT, Ad Library, and go high level. With these three tools, you'll be able to fulfill your clients very easy. What I mean by ChatGPT, essentially, ChatGPT is like your advisor, right? You can train ChatGPT to help you with your service delivery. You can train ChatGPT to give you the best advice into what type of ads to run based on the clients. Where is he located? What is his radius? What type of leads you should be expecting at what price, right? All those types of things, as well as that, creating ad copies, creating creatives, it can all be done through AI now, right? You can also use Canva, which is actually a great tool as well. But as well as that, if you actually just don't have time and you want to test out, just use ChatGPT. Believe me, it'll do the magic for you. Next thing that you want to do is obviously Ad Library Snipe, right? Meaning that you're going to Ad Library and searching ads which have worked in the past, right? For people, filtering it by active for the past, month. So once if they're filtered for a month, that means they've been running for a month. That means it's definitely generating ROI for their clients, right? So definitely take a look at that and steal the copies, steal the creative, right? Just entirely funnel hack the person. Like, who gives a shit, right? The next thing is obviously go high level. In the go high level, right? You don't need to use go high level necessarily, right? But me personally, it's just easier because there's tons of tutorials on it online, right? If you need my help, just drop me a DM. I'll help you, right? Just set up a couple automations for your clients so that way the backend is way more organized and easier to sustain and manage your client. And a key part of like sustaining your client and retaining them, right? Because once you learn how to set appointments, and once you pick your niche and set appointments and close them, right? You need to learn the fulfillment, and a big part of fulfillment is retaining them. Because believe me, I've been in this situation before, right? And I know a lot of you guys are in the same situation where you're aggressively signing new clients, right? But you're always worried about retaining your clients because you cannot do the proper service delivery, right? And one thing that will, increase the retention rate is communicating them to consistently, like having an onboarding call where you're onboarding them, right? And the next call is you have 2 calls where you also set expectations, talking about the program, talking about, what typically happens, what happens if this and that, just so that it's kind of like a brief, like, when you're like going to go karting, the person always tells you like watch a video on go-karting or some shit. It's just so that you can expect what to happen in each situation and you know what's gonna happen. Same thing here. And obviously make sure to create a WhatsApp group with him so that you guys can continuously communicate, because as far as you're concerned, you're gonna be doing the work, but he doesn't know that. He might think you just took his money, ran to Bahamas, sipping cocktails by the beach, right? So you want to communicate to him, what are you doing behind the back, right? And as well as that, on the other hand, you want to know, is he closing these leads, right? What is the lead quality, etc., right? So with these 3 simple steps, right, you can easily scale to 10K a month, right? If you need one-on-one help getting there, just drop me a DM on Instagram, right? I'm more than happy to help you guys out. Anyways, take care. See you later. Subscribe because it's free.